Hey, look who's decaying in deep space. Here's your look at the Super7 ReAction figure of Astro's zombies. From the deepest, darkest reaches of outer space comes hordes of murderous, reanimated corpses in spacesuits. Space may be empty, but their stomachs won't be if you happen to run into them. Before we get a closer look at the Super7 ReAction figures Astro zombies, let's grab the tape measure and see how tall they stand. Including the dome on their helmets, the domed helmets you can remove, by the way. The figures are going to be about 4 inches in height, or about 10 centimeters tall. And before we have a look at the accessory that comes included with the figure, one thing I did want to do is bring in the packaging that the figure comes in contained inside of. I do wish that they could find other ways of actually making these as a temporary way to open them, not that you have to then destroy the packaging in order to get the figure out. If they could find a way to devise like a clamshell system so that you'd be able to take the figure out, be able to put the figure back in, because I really didn't want to have to destroy the packaging. I might still take what's left at least of the plastic dome and then just leave the backer card here, because I feel the card is too good to be destroyed. You can see on the front here, one of the Astro zombies, another one's walking in the background, but the one in the foreground here apparently has detected something, as he does have his energy saber in his hand. I don't know if that's the actual name of it, but we'll call it at least that. Just to quickly, though, flip around to the back, everything about this is retro, including, like, this looks like an old sort of 50s sci-fi poster, complete, of course, with the Astro zombie on the one side, with a very simple, small read-up on the other. Moving that out of the way. Going and talking a little bit about his saber. He has this sort of energy, I don't know whether it's a sword, a saber, it doesn't really matter. He has a big bladed weapon. Not that he would already have problems already with the Astro zombie, but the fact that this thing's coming at you, possibly running, I don't know. I don't know if the rules of an Astro zombie is the fact that this thing can run or not. Even just slow crawl. If this thing's slowly crawling at you with this thing on fire, I think you have some real problems on your hands. The thing about the saber, though, or the blade, it doesn't have any flame effect to it. Like in the actual illustration, it sort of looked as if this thing was on fire, but sort of just instead looks like it's made out of a laser. It's curved on the end, and it's got actually a little bit of a sharp point. Not to the point where I'm going to be drawing blood, but I did notice it certainly right away the first time I pulled this out, and I happened to put my finger against it. It does fit into his hands. Technically, it does fit in, I suppose, to either one of his hands, but this hand's a lot looser. If you want the full grip effect, then simply just take the hilt and just attach it into his hand like that. Obviously, it's going to cause the figure not necessarily front heaviness, because he's got large enough boots anyways that the figure's not going to topple forward. I suppose, yeah, even just bringing the arm as far, well, you know what, let's bring it all the way up. Yeah, no issues whatsoever getting the figure to stand properly. The other thing the figure also does have, technically, is a removable dome. The dome for right now sort of is a translucent, I mean, it's clear plastic, but it's got slightly a smokiness to it. So while you can still make out the face of the Astro zombie, it's a little bit more distorted. To get the full effect of what the face looks like, you can actually just take the dome off. Now, to remove the dome, the hard thing about it, though, is every single time you're doing it, you're going to be running the risk of running this against the painted face, and you may actually start to flake the paint off, scratch the paint off. There's a little hair, we'll just remove that for right now. With the dome off, you get actually how good this head sculpt looks. It looks like a bad guy from Scooby-Doo. I like the coloring that they went with. It's sort of more of a softer kind of pastel blue for the back of the cowl. And then the front of the face kind of has a really nice darker green. It's also got a little bit of red accents there on the top. The paint's actually quite clean for the sizing of this. The only thing about the dome, though, is when it's time to put the dome back on, obviously you're already going to be scraping against the face, but then you have to tuck it inside the collar here, as obviously this is going to be flopping around before you do that. First, what you kind of have to do is you take the collar, or you take the end of the hood, or take the end of the dome, and you sort of have to put it in on an angle and then tuck it in like that. It looks good okay from the front. On the back, though, it does leave a little bit of a gap, but it's not bad at all. And it actually stays pretty good, too. Moving it back and forth will actually dislodge it, but providing you're not going to be doing that, I can't see why you would want to anyways. The dome stays relatively good in place. I think what I'll do, even though I did say already about scraping paint off, I'm only going to do it one more time, and then I'm going to probably just keep this on the figure's head for the remainder of the time that this guy's going to be sitting on my shelf. I did also want to leave this guy, the helmet off, obviously, so that I'd be able to show you guys the articulation, which goes without saying, I suppose, that all these Super 7 ReAction figures tend to be very limited with only 5 points. So he's got this swivel in the head solely, swiveled arms, and swiveled legs. If you miss that just for a second, I don't know how long you have your eyes with your eyes closed, but again, like you only can swivel the legs back and forth, the arms rotate again all the way around, and you can only rotate the head somewhat all the way around. It's obviously going to get a little hung up there on the back when you try to turn the head. But again, it's just it's a fun little figure, and that's one of the things I really like about this. ReAction from time to time, I don't pick up everything that they have put out, but every so often, when I happen to come across something like as cool as this, I have to feel compelled to pick it up. Now, again, when it comes to the rest of the detailing on the body, while still a lot of it really is just dark gray plastic, there really isn't a lot of paint. But the parts that have been painted are nicely painted, at least. So you've got some silver there on the arms there, for example. The little control panel readout, while maybe not having as close, maybe it looks like it's almost the close enough color. It looks like actually this is a little bit lighter of a blue than what we actually get for the cowl, but it's pretty close enough. You've got like little knobs, little dials, little buttons and stuff that I'm sure have probably something to do with the air that he's breathing, or again, like what's left of his body, at least he's be able to breathe something inside of this in case, I guess, he's going to unknown areas where, again, like the air supply or whatever it may be that keeps this thing alive, he has to obviously wear the dome for that reason. Again, like it's a nicely sculpted figure. There's only just a little bit of paint there on the knees. There's a little bit of paint on the tops of the boots, and at least they took the time to put some silver on the bottoms of its boots. I keep wanting to say it's a him, but I guess it could probably just be an it. It's an Astro zombie, and that's all you really need to know. If this thing's coming at you, whether, again, it's running fast or a slow crawl, I think you best get out of your way. And, of course, to finish the worries, the problems that you're going to be facing with these things coming at you is the fact that it also does have this flaming sword. So imagine this thing coming at you. Again, like the only thing about this is, while I do like the fact that they did actually include like a removable dome, how often will I really want to be putting this over top of the face? Like you can already see like how close in quarters that actually is to the face. Anytime I'm going to be putting this over top, it actually isn't so bad when it gets to the chin, but then when it has to rub against this section and the front section of what would originally have been its nose, it, again, it feels like it's probably rubbing too much against the plastic. Also, even though I just finished talking about that, one last thing I did want to say, like the coloring of him and a little bit also the yellow that they've added to the eyes, he kind of looks a little bit like the cartoon Tales from the Crypt, where again, that kind of looks like the Creeper. A little bit, maybe. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that sees that. All in all, it's a fun looking figure. It's one of those cases where I picked him up not necessarily, I picked him up over on Entertainment Earth, not with really the plan in mind to get this guy anyways, but I was also picking up a few other figures, some of which we probably will be looking at here on this channel, and I happened to come across this guy for a price that, again, I couldn't pass. The ReAction figures, again, aren't super expensive for what you're getting with the figure line as a whole. You're getting very limited, again, articulation for the head, the shoulders, and the tops of the legs. But again, I think the appeal of this is not necessarily the articulation that it brings to the table, but rather instead the sculpting and the paint. In both cases, I think the Astro zombie knocks it out of the park, or out of the planet. So this guy behind the camera ended up picking the Astro zombie up over on Entertainment Earth. Over on their site, the figure was going for $20, and as of right now, it's still in stock. The neat thing about this figure is it's also getting a repaint. The one that we looked at in this review in brackets was called the black and silver version, but also releasing in July of 2023, they're also doing a teal and blue version. I don't know if one is going to be a little bit more limited than the other. I would imagine that the quantities in which they're producing these figures are probably going to be exactly the same. The difference, though, is that the teal and the blue version has sort of more of a yellowish face, while the rest of the body is kind of more that teal and blue color scheme, not the gray suit that we looked at in this review. I don't know whether like the saber is going to be the same color. I probably would imagine that they're going to change the color of that as well, so the blade is not going to be the red that we got in this review, but I would imagine it's going to be just as pointy on the end of the blade. Ouch! Picking that up and moving it around already that I have, even though, again, no blood to be found so far, knock on wood, I do still feel it, like I maybe had pulled out the sword too quickly, or I was putting it in the figure's hand, and I didn't realize right away that the point on the end of the blade was as pointy as it was, until, of course, I put pressure against it. Ouch. But what do you guys think of the Astro Zombie? Is this a figure you could see yourselves picking up for yourself? Or, again, like as a whole, are you guys into the ReAction figures? Again, I know they're limited when it comes to the articulation, but I think, again, where they make up for it is the sculpting of the figures and the paint that they paint them in. Again, if you guys are interested to get this one for yourself, it is available. Entertainment Earth's got it right now. You can click the link down below in the video description. If you guys enjoyed this video, want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, and you do want to stick around for more, possibly we will be looking at some more Super 7 stuff. Looking just behind me right now. Yeah. We are going to be looking at some more Super 7 stuff. There's a pile behind me. So there's definitely a lot more videos coming your way, guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you're also turning on the bell notification. And yeah, by all means, please make sure you're coming back regularly. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.